Hi, and welcome to another episode of Just Scare Us Already, where we talk about new and existing horror films, give you our critique of them, and just kind of, talk about what we like and what we don't like. Again, it's just our opinion, but if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, like us, and follow us. So I'm here with my co host, Cheyenne. Hi, Shy.
Hello. Hi.
And today we've got two new movies to talk about. So, as we continue to make the push to another Halloween season, moviegoers were given two more new entries in the horror film genre. This weekend, we had the release of Never Let Go, starring Holly Berry, and The Substance, starring Demi Moore and Margaret Qualley. Um, were we finally given a film worthy of scaring us, or will we have to continue to wait for a film to just scare us already? So,
Hmm.
Shy, give us a little information on Never Let Go.
Never Let Go is directed by Alexandra Aja and written by Casey Coughlin and Ryan Graspy, starring Halle Berry and Anthony B. Jenkins and Percy Daggs IV. This movie follows a family, a mother and her two twin sons, as they are living in a remote cabin in the forest. To the boys' knowledge, there is an evil darkness outside that one touch from can turn anyone evil and lead them to killing their family. However, they have never seen it, but their mother has. Can this evil break down this family? Right now, it is sitting with a critic score of 65 and an audience score of 53. I will say I kind of agree with the audience score on this one, but let's get a little bit more into detail about it. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I had high hopes for this film. However, I was extremely disappointed. The film was extremely slow and boring. And there were very little scares, and the plot of the film never really explained itself. What did you think?
No. Sadly, it didn't. I think that there weren't a lot of scares for people who like scary movies. I could
Mm,
see that if someone doesn't like scary movies, this one is packed with a lot of jump scares, a lot of loud, cliche jump scares. Right off the bat, you're hit with like two back to back, which I thought was a little bit too much. Um, but it's nothing new, I would say. So I wasn't scared at any point. I wasn't creeped out at any point. The scariest part was Halle Berry's acting in a good way. She did a really good job of playing a psychotic mother.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I wish it had dug a little bit more deep into the lore because they kind of bring up that there is this evil that her grandmother believes in it, her grandfather, I believe, also believed in, or at least played into it enough to build them a house to protect them from said
mhm,
evil. But it didn't kind of go into how the grandmother discovered it or why she was able to see it, why Hallie was able to see it, why the boys weren't. And obviously, it's playing on the idea of whether or not she is actually seeing something or if she's a little crazy. I was kind of hoping it'd go more in the vein of 10 Cloverfield Lane, of
mhm.
really kind of digging into that, but I understand why it didn't.
Yeah, I
What about
mean,
you?
yeah, the outcome of the story was semi predictable. I think they did a
Hmm.
decent job of throwing the audience off by not going the route of just a story about a mother who, in her attempt to run away and hide from her past, lies to her sons by telling them the world has ended and that they are the sole survivors. But I do agree that the evil concept in the film is never really explained. Um, and we're told that there's some sort of evil, some sort of evil entity that is trying to get her and her two sons, but it never really explained where and why this evil exists. It
Yeah.
just basically, we're being told, yeah, there's this evil, it's trying to get us. And I think in a lot of ways, maybe it's a metaphor for
Yeah.
schizophrenia or, something like that, where um, the mother had it, her mother had it. So we're led to believe maybe at the end her son also has it, because all of a sudden he has the ability to see the evil. But then it seemed like both sons were able to see the evil, so it never really developed that whole concept. It was kind of just
Yeah.
there, thrown in there, and we were just left to accept it.
Yeah, and I agree. I thought watching it, I was like, okay, so clearly schizophrenia of some sort. But maybe as I was thinking about it more, it had biblical undertones. Obviously, the evil,
Hmm.
this isn't really a spoiler, but the evil, she says at the beginning, took the form of a snake. And the
Hmm.
house has all these things that they have to say that are kind of reminiscent of like prayers. And so I don't know if they were trying to say the evil was just the general temptation of the devil, because she says that it's coming after them because they have so much love for each other
Hmm.
as a family. So I don't know if that's what it was trying to go for, of like they escaped humanity as a whole, like society, and the evil is just what the outside world is like in general.
Hmm.
So I can't say I disagree. But yeah, I just kind of wish it had gone a little bit more into depth. And I don't know if the ending is supposed to be a possible sequel bait. I wouldn't say I would hate if it was, because if they did do a sequel, I would be interested if they would go further into the lore. I just don't think that it would with how the movie ended.
Hmm.
But overall, I love the acting. I thought both boys did really good, although they're both the same age. They both they play twins, but I just felt like one felt a little older than the other one. So that kind of threw
Hmm.
me off a little bit at the beginning, because one just always felt older and more mature, and the other one just came off very young. But both were really good. Obviously, Halle Berry did a great job. I think she's a great actress, and she did her part in this very well. And then there is one part at the end of chapter 2 where I will say I was genuinely shocked. I was a bit gobsmacked. I don't want to give any spoilers, but
Okay.
I think you know the scene I'm talking about.
Um, I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
Maybe I was just shocked by it then. It was the only scene I found shocking in the whole thing, but I did overall. I thought the movie was fine. It's a decent watch if you're not someone who cares much about like the deep lore of a storyline. I think you would probably enjoy it for the most part, or if you're easily scared by jump scares. But if you are someone who is used to jump scares and the loud noises that most directors use nowadays, it's nothing new. It's nothing
Mm,
exciting. Sadly, I was
right.
genuinely excited for this movie.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I do believe Holly Berry did a good job. Um, and for the two boys, I mean, they were okay. I mean, they carried their roles as best they could. But again, in my opinion, Never Let Go was extremely boring and never really developed into even a decent horror film. The climax was okay, but left me scratching my head with confusion, and the conclusion was lackluster and cliche. Um, I wish the writers and director stuck to one idea instead of trying to
Yeah.
tell virtually two different stories. Um, so yeah, I would have preferred if they were going to go the route of, yeah, here's a schizophrenic mother who wants to alienate herself and her two sons from everybody else. So she believes that there's this evil entity and that the world has ended, and it's her job to protect her kids from outside influence. That would have been great.
Uh huh.
Or if they were going to go this evil entity route, develop that story and give
Hmm.
us something to work with. So, um, and I had to keep asking myself, and I don't want to give away too much, but for us to believe that the world has ended, I'm saying to myself, once we find out the um, conclusion, I'm saying to myself, there was never a plane or anything that ever flew over that area. I'm like, you hear planes all
That's
day
very
long
true.
and you heard absolutely nothing. They never heard a plane, they never heard a helicopter, nothing. So I'm like,
That is
okay.
very true. Yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but there's insinuations of a possibility that there have been people in this forest who she may believe was evil or were the evil. We're not entirely sure
Mm,
until the ending. But yeah, I mean, if this is somewhere where there are possibilities of hikers, you would think that there would be, people who are in
more
charge of trails
traffic. Yeah.
and traffic and all these different things. And I'm also curious on how, if the evil happens and her grandparents were there and everything, and they believed in this evil that would touch them, how they had so much time to build an entire home
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
and test this rope contraption that they make, which is the entire point of the title, never let go of this rope connected to the house. Do
Hmm.
they just take a long shot and go, okay, well, hopefully if we have this rope and it touches us, we're good?
Right, right.
So,
And
it's
and
just, it would have been different if there was like an entire community of people and you see all these broken down homes and they're the last
mhm,
surviving family of this small commune. I would have been like, okay, I can kind of understand a little bit more and why they would keep going. I don't know. I've always been, maybe I'm just a pessimist or just a dark person or someone who's not willing to try to survive in apocalyptic situations. But if it's me and two young boy children, like, what is the plan after I die? If we're the last surviving people, I don't know. I'm just someone who doesn't have it in me to survive a zombie apocalypse. But I just don't find the reason. If I think I'm the sole survivor, I'm done. Like, I don't care enough.
well, to your
So
point, and we'll definitely have to mark this as a spoiler, but it kinda
okay.
contradicts the whole history of this house and her parents and her grandparents because at one point near the or climax of the film, Holly Berry says, "I lied to you guys. I brought the evil here."
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So
That's
if it was
right.
around before her, how did she bring it there?
So I guess maybe the grandpa would have had to have built the home or added maybe the words onto the home after she brought it, maybe with the boys. But yeah,
Yes.
that's true. I forgot about that. I just assumed she
Mhm.
meant like she brought it back or something, but that's so true. Well, overall, I'm gonna give this movie I want to give it like a half between meh and nah because I don't think it was.
That's a
I think that
cop
there are
out. Come
people.
on. That's a
No,
cop
because
out.
I think I think there are people who genuinely like. I could see this movie scaring like London, my sister, because she does not do horror movies. So I think that she would get scared of this. I don't know if she would like the storyline. You know what? I'll give it. I'll give it a nah. I'm gonna give it a thumbs down because I think that the story was really lacking. However, I do believe that there are people out there who would genuinely enjoy this movie who don't look into things as deeply as we do. Someone who just likes
Mhm.
a good popcorn movie is easily scared. I think that this is an enjoyable movie for that. I don't think it was as slow as you think it was. I thought that it had a decent pace. I thought that it had enough in it where I was kind of going like, "Oh, I wonder what's going on. I wonder if it is in her head, if it's real, yada yada." So
Mhm.
I'm gonna give it a thumbs down on a personal level, but I would say I could see a lot of people enjoying this movie as a whole,
Okay.
especially people who are easily scared, looking for something during the Halloween season.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough. And yeah, there are people who just like to, have a good chill, kind of horror movie. But again, I wouldn't even consider this a decent horror film. I did not like Never Let Go. Um, and
Okay,
so I
fair.
definitely give it a thumbs down, kitty. Um, just
I feel bad. I kind of want to
didn't
give it a meh.
didn't do it for me. I didn't enjoy it. It's a movie that I would not watch again, even if it
Yeah,
was on
definitely.
streaming or anything like that. I couldn't see myself sitting through it again. It just wasn't for me. It wasn't entertaining at all.
I understand that. I think if a sequel came out, I would watch it. I don't know if I would spend money to go see it. I'd probably watch it on streaming.
Hmm.
Um, but if they chose to do a sequel because of how it ends, I would be willing to watch it. But yeah, I definitely don't. I wouldn't be hankering to the theaters to go see something. Um,
Okay.
Again, although I will say Alexandra Aja or Aja, they have done a lot of horror movies directing wise. They've done The Hills Have Eyes, Crawl, High Tension. So
Okay.
I can see that they have a clear vision when it comes to horror. Sadly, it's just all kind of reminiscent of the same type of jump scares, and I kind of want just something new, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I think this was her return to um, the horror genre. I think maybe she stepped away for a while or was doing other genres, but yeah, um,
Shoot.
I can't recommend this film. So let's move on
Well,
to our second film.
I
So
just
tell
do
us
want
a
to make
little bit.
a comment. Alexandra Aja is a he.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I heard you
Yeah,
say
just on
her.
I
So
no, with I know that's why I quickly said they because I wasn't sure.
okay,
But
gotcha,
yeah, so
gotcha.
sorry, he. So sorry. But yeah, so his return. Yeah, I think so because I think the last one I saw was Crawl on the list.
Okay.
So I not a bad return, but I think we're just all hankering for something new. I'm kind of tired of the jump scare tropes of the loud noise, especially the loud noise. I don't know if it was my theater, but this one felt extremely loud when they would do these appearances of this creature and everything.
Mm.
So that was very annoying. But anyways, going on to the substance. This one was written and directed by Carolee Fargat and starring Margaret Qualley, Demi Moore, and Dennis Quaid. A fading celebrity decides to use a black market drug, a cell replicating substance that temporarily creates a younger, better version of herself. However, it is not all she has dreamed of. Having to share their consciousness creates animosity between the two versions, Sue and Elizabeth. Currently, it sits with an 89% critic score and a 68% audience score. Personally, I'm leaning towards the critic score at the with this movie. I know you may have different feelings about that, so why don't you go ahead and say how you feel?
All right. So yeah, The Substance. It's a film where you have to go into it leaving all rational thinking at the door. At face value, the film is entertaining and almost a clever plot. But when you stop and think about the plot itself and a lot of the scenes, y- you can't help but think, "What the heck?" I mean, there are just so many things in this film that I was just like, "What?" That makes absolutely no sense, you know. So it's definitely a film where you have to just say, "Okay, I'm gonna take this film for what it is and not think too much about reality."
So I will say on Rotten Tomato, it's listed as a horror drama,
Hmm.
but on IMDb, it's listed as a dark comedy horror drama, body horror. So
Okay.
I would say that I would lean more towards adding in dark comedy on the list of what this movie genre falls into. I like the body horror of it personally. I thought it was reminiscent of things like The Fly. I like that it was not CGI, it was a lot of practical effects. I really appreciate things like that. Um, but I actually thought the movie was really good for the most part. I will say the last 20 minutes um, need to be cut and thrown in the garbage and just redone because it was so outlandish and it became such a dark comedy to the point of like Cabin in the Woods dark comedy.
Hmm.
But the beginning of it, I thought it was a really interesting concept. This isn't a big spoiler or anything, but they never say or they never show, and it doesn't seem like the two versions share any memories or anything from their time awake. And I think
Right.
that that kind of hinders the storyline a lot because there's there's no point,
Right. Yep. Yeah,
right? Like
exactly. I
they
mean, it
go
almost
ahead.
seems like you're they're basically saying you can become a younger version of yourself, but you can only live vicariously through your other self.
But you're not even
Which,
really living vicariously.
yeah, yeah, because basically you're in this comatose state for 7 days, and when you wake up, you have no clue what the other person did or whatever, until you see any, clues or details or whatever of what they did for the last 7 days.
Hmm. But I will say the idea of it, of this new version of yourself, this better version, especially in this day and age, where we have long-winded conversations about the female form and how aging has affected a lot of females, including especially in the celebrity world. By like 50, so many actresses are considered grandmother age and are playing these roles that just don't fit them. Obviously, not for people like gorgeous women like Demi Moore and Jennifer Aniston, Halle Berry, but for many people, especially women, the thought of losing your beauty is such a fearful thing that you would do anything for it. But I do wish that this had been more of like your body changes to be this younger version of yourself, and you're more just sharing the mind, or you're sharing the body, I guess, but two different minds or two different consciousness within it. Because yeah, it's you're not getting anything out of this. You're in a comatose state while this other version of you is out and about.
Hmm.
And I guess this might be a spoiler, so I'll put the spoiler thing up here, but it just kind of depends on how you see it. Whatever the when if the younger version, or if either version, I guess, chooses to stay out longer than the 7 days allotted, the other version has some sort of effect. It has some sort of effect on the younger version or the other version. Sadly, this movie never shows if for the Matrix version, the original version, if they were to stay out later, what would happen to the younger version.
Hmm.
We never get to see that. We only get to see the opposite effect. And it is grotesque and it is horrifying. Like, I really enjoyed when it got to this point in the movie. But I just wish that it had shown if the Matrix doing anything to themselves has any effect to the younger version. Because again, if not, what is the point of this whole thing? They didn't pay this person to give them this drug. They're not promoting anything. So it just felt like an experiment, maybe, or
Hmm.
something. But yeah, there was like no genuine point to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's where I mentioned that, just thinking about the film after seeing it, when I while I was watching the film, I was like, okay, this isn't too bad, it caught my attention. It was entertaining. Like you mentioned, the last 20 minutes of this film ruined the movie for me. I felt the climax and the conclusion was awful. They could have easily ended the film with a more impactful conclusion.
Hmm.
But instead, the filmmakers decided to give us a laughable, blood soaked ending that brought the film to a crashing ending. It was like
Yeah.
watching a train wreck. I mean, I literally walked out of the theater shaking my head like, what
Yeah.
the heck was that?
I was in a theater of four people and I had my face in my hands going, "What?" During the last 20 minutes going, "Please someone wake up, make this whole 20-minute thing a dream sequence of something. I don't care what." Cuz it became like Cabin in the Woods style comedy in a
Hmm.
movie that was not that the entirety of the film. And yeah, I sat there really. I didn't like the beginning of it. I thought it was slow. I was kind of like, oh, when is it going to get to the scary part? When is it going to get to the horror? Then,
Hmm.
luckily, it jumped into it. It jumped into to this body horror, grotesque film. And then, yeah, the last 20 minutes just throws that out the window, completely loses the point of it. Like, I understood the beginning part of, this need for, sorry, this need for beauty, this need for youth, um, this growing towards thinking of yourself and this older version of yourself as being useless and unworthy of anything. And
Hmm.
then the ending just completely throws all that out the window for nothing.
Yeah.
God, as I
Yeah.
talk about it, I start to dislike it more and more.
Well, and you could sit here and overthink the movie and try to justify every scene and including the ending. I even was like, oh, well, maybe they meant this with the ending, but I don't need to think about things that hard and that long. Um, I take films for the face value. If it has a story with a meaning or something that's pretty
Hmm.
obvious, fine. But I don't want to sit here and dissect the film for the next week, week and a half, 2 weeks to understand, well, maybe they meant this, maybe they meant that. I give credit to Demi Moore for doing a good job in the role of an aging, star facing the fact that her career is over. I thought the nudity was a bit too much. Um,
A lot.
yeah, the shock value, okay, fine, but then it was just more nudity, and it was like, okay, I don't think we needed this much nudity.
Yeah, we got the
Uh,
point, you know?
yeah, yeah, exactly. And the constant close-up shots, those were overly done and tedious. I mean, the scene, and I don't think this would be a spoiler, but the scene with Dennis Quaid eating the shrimp, I literally had to sit my popcorn down because I couldn't touch it again. It wasn't necessary. It was just too much,
No. And I
too
understood the
much.
close-ups of the face. I understood closing up on like the wrinkles and the beautiful face of Margaret Qualley, and even showing Dennis Quaid, I could kind of justify in my head as like, okay, we're talking about like how men can grow old and they're fine,
Hmm.
nothing happens to them.
Hmm.
It's a constant conversation. However, yeah, then there was all these close-ups of a fly and the champagne and the fly in the champagne and all these like random things where it was like I would have preferred if you had just kept to the faces because at least that gives it some sort of meaning, I guess, behind it. Same for the
Hmm.
nudity. I was fine when it showed, Demi Moore looking at her body, touching her body, seeing how her body had aged, and then Margaret Qualley doing the exact same thing, but in this nice, young, supple body. But then after that, the shot kept going and kept going, and
Hmm.
then they had all these other shots of her body and zooms in her body, and I understood it, but again, it was just like, okay, we don't need, maybe out of the 2 hours and 20 minutes I would probably give it maybe 30 minutes of nudity. It was a lot. That
Yeah.
might be an exaggeration, but it was a lot. And it's just such a shame because I really did enjoy the movie watching it. I think a lot of people would enjoy this movie while watching it. Again, maybe not the 20 minutes at the end, but some people might find that, I don't know, interesting. But as I talk about it, as we dissect it a little bit, as we discuss it, yeah, sadly, it does not work as much as it does work, if that makes sense. I hope I phrased that correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
I get what
doesn't
you're
work more
saying.
than it works.
I get what you're
So
saying.
personally, I would give this. I would say all the actors were great, except I don't know how the direction was for Dennis Quaid. I know he's a good actor, but he was laughable in this movie. He was an absolute, and not even like a goof in a good way. Like it was a goof in a stupid way for how this
Hmm.
movie was going. Um, I don't know with him.
Okay.
But overall, I
Yeah.
would give this
Uh-huh.
movie a meh.
Okay.
I would say that I think it's worth watching the first 2 hours of it if you don't think too hard about the story, like about the ramifications of it and all that kind of stuff. But
Hmm.
yeah, this movie, as you dissect it, it does become a little bit less meaningful and it does seem a little bit more convoluted of what would be the purpose of doing any of this. There's small changes that could have been made to really add in why someone would want this,
Hmm. Yeah.
but a
Yeah.
meh.
Yeah, no, and I agree that the substance it succeeds at grossing out the audience, that's for sure.
Mhm.
But for me, it doesn't work as a horror film. I agree that it should be categorized as a horror comedy, as several scenes were more comedic than scary. Um, Unfortunately, reality is completely chucked out the window. You know, I would just simply say for a grown person to come out of another person just breaks all logic whatsoever. I'm just gonna stop there.
Well,
um,
yeah, of course it does.
and the last 20 minutes of the film ruined it for me. I was torn on whether I liked the film or not, but the more I thought about the film and its horrible ending, I just, I just was like, the director really took the film that potentially was okay, it was decent,
Mhm.
and just totally chucked it and just said, you know what, we're just gonna have this outrageous ending and take it for what it's worth. So, you know, I would not suggest watching this film in the theater. Wait for streaming, so that way you can stop at that 2 hour minute point and skip the ending. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, I give the substance a meh uh, at best.
Okay.
I
That's good.
definitely was on the fence. I wanted to give it a thumbs down, but I thought the film had enough value the first two
Mhm.
hours to say, okay, it's worth the watch, but don't go out of your way to see it. And
Yeah.
and and a lot of times I'll watch a movie and make my notes about it, and then I'll take a look at critic reviews and audience reviews, and I have to say I was shocked at the during the first day of its release on Friday. There seemed like there were more positive audience
Mhm.
reviews. And then as Saturday and Sunday went by, the reviews got worse. It was like horrible movie, don't waste your time, things
And
like that. So
maybe it was people like you who sat with it before they wrote the review and said, "You know what? I thought about it more."
yeah.
Because until we started talking about it before filming this, and then as we filmed it, the more I've
Hmm.
gone, "Oh, man," because I went into work going, "You're gonna like this movie. This movie is very good. The last 20 minutes are a little dumb, but this movie is very good." And now as you talked about, I'm like, yeah, there's just a little bit too much of things that could have been tweaked just a little bit, just enough for it to have had a more meaningful impact of it, as well as giving it more of a purpose.
Hmm. Hmm.
Because yeah, now it's just genuinely bothering me the fact that, like, why would you do this? You get nothing out of this. Also,
No.
I'm sorry, but if someone gave me a letter that said, "Hey, this changed my life," and some shady person said, "Meet me in this random alley place and insert this drug into yourself," I don't think I would do that, even for youth.
Yep. Yep.
So, like,
That's why I said reality, logic, all out the window.
I understand the idea of, like, most people will do anything for beauty, especially celebrities and especially aging celebrities. But
Hmm.
that was a little bit too far for me. I was like, it wasn't even a doctor doing this procedure. This isn't a spoiler. This was you at home giving yourself an injection of a random drug you found. Could
Yeah.
not. But
Yeah.
anyways, so that those
Well,
are ratings for
and to
these
be honest,
movies.
sorry not to cut you off,
No, no,
but
no. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, and maybe it's been done before. Maybe they wanted a more shock value kind of thing. I would have appreciated it more if, instead of separating into two different bodies, that the person who actually takes the drug, it changes them physically,
Uh huh.
and then when they would reach that 7-day mark, it would start to affect them, and their face would become more deformed or something like that, and so that would keep them having to want to keep doing it.
Yeah.
So I would have appreciated more of a story like that, but
No,
again,
I
that's just my
agree.
opinion.
I agree completely. I think even if they wanted to add in that she is a slightly different person when she is younger, So there's still
Hmm.
this Sue aspect of it, a separate personality. I would have been fine with that because yeah, she gets to live in this young body and
Right.
experience how people treat her younger versus when she gets old and maybe she has to live 7 more days as her normal older self. And you could have done the exact same thing of if you use the drug too much, there will be consequences, yada yada yada.
Right.
It could have even
Right.
been consequences of not having your consciousness as much as Demi. I don't know how they would have filmed it. I'm sure they could have figured it out. I'm not a genius, but someone could have done it, and I think that that movie would have been a much better storyline. Because I mean, you even see it with like The Fly, with that one actor,
Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldberg. Thank you, Jeff Goldblum, where he is stronger and better when he starts out, and then slowly he gets more grotesque, and this turns into a fly.
Yeah.
Um, and it was very reminiscent of that, which is why I liked it. I thought that that was really cool, and I love body horror, things like that. But yeah, sadly, it just diverged. It divulged a little bit too much, and it didn't have enough of Demi Moore getting any sort of positive effect from this to justify her going, no, 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 we'll keep it going. Because why?
Right.
Unless it was,
Yeah.
I would have even appreciated. I would have even appreciated if it had been longer after she had been a celebrity. She was now losing money. She was going to lose her home. Becomes this young person, starts making money again. And
Hmm.
even if it was like that mindset of like, oh, I got to keep it because I'm getting money from this,
Hmm.
even that would have been more appreciated than just, no, 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 we'll just keep it because
Yeah. Yeah.
question mark.
Yeah, it definitely didn't justify the means. It was like, why would you want to continue this? And it's just like, oh, you're one. If you end it,
So
then you can never go back, and all this other stuff. And it's like, well,
then
I
what's the
get it.
point?
Yeah, what's the point? Because technically, I'm not enjoying this new life. I'm not enjoying what my alter self is doing. I'm comatose for 7 days, and then I wake up and I don't know what the heck's going on.
Yeah, she's trashed my house and changed things up and is trying to live as a person. And so yeah, so sadly, as we keep talking, the more I want to put this as a thumbs down, but I'm going to keep it as a meh because I do think overall, again, sometimes we think too hard and we think too much, you and I.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think as a movie in and of itself, as what it was, it's fine. I think yeah, it's worth the watch. Maybe at home if you are into weirder horror movies and someone trying to kind of like what we were saying whenever like trying to change up the space of horror, then yeah, I would
Mhm.
say this is worth the watch for sure. Just bear in mind the last 20 minutes. But anyways, so those are our scores for this one. Leave a comment down below on whether or not you agree with us, if we think way too hard about movies. Um, and then coming up, we have 3 movies possibly this week. Azrael, Saw 11 is slated to come out on Friday, so I'm not sure.
Mm.
And then a movie called Sleep. So we'll see which ones we can catch in theaters, and if we're gonna do another double feature. If not, we will have plenty going into the Halloween October season. But thank you guys so much
Definitely.
for watching. Thanks for catching another episode. Again, give us a like, subscribe, follow us on Instagram and Spotify. And yeah, we hope to see you guys next week. And hopefully, we will find something that will scare us.
So
Bye.
bye.